Yeah. Hey guys, I'm back. I'm sharing the right screen, and I just needed to be sure that I'm doing the right things because this is my first time recording this sort of video. So yeah, so we created the data factory and storage account. So now, uh, let me see. The next step is to create the Synapse SQL pool. So again, just type Synapse over here, Synapse SQL pool. You can use an Azure SQL database if you like, anyway, but just for the fun, uh, we are creating this with Synapse. So workspace name, again, CDC, sample, Synapse, something unique, Eastern US, phone subscription, account name. So I use my storage account that I created earlier. File system name. So I create new one. I call it Synapse. Yeah. So then I go to next, right? Allow network access to. So okay. So first step is gonna ask you to create a admin user. So SQL admin user and the password. So this is good to keep this password, you know, in check. So Google created some password for me. I'm just gonna use the same. I'm just gonna use the same over here. I'm gonna create it in a notepad. So let me create a notepad just so that I don't forget it in case I need it, right? Right, notepad. So let me show you what I'm doing. SQL Server admin, username, password. So it's good to save it. Obviously, you are seeing it, but either way, it's not sensitive information. I'm gonna delete it after this demo. So system assignment identity grant. Select grant to the workspace network access. Yes, I want it to grant, but it's not allowing me anyway. So I guess it's already default. I don't need a lot of encryption because it's not that important for me. I don't need a managed network. Uh, yeah, it's gonna allow for all IP addresses, so that's fine. So right now, let's create it. So guys, make sure you don't spend a lot of money. Once you once you do it, make sure you delete all these things after your exercise is done, so that you don't rack up some cost. So while that is going in the background, my storage account is here. I can go to my containers. As you can see, I created this Synapse container so that the Synapse can store the data you leveraging this Azure Data Lake Gen 2. And also remember that the Synapse architecture, because it separates the compute from the storage, underneath is using the storage with the data lake, while the compute is using a SQL pool. So that's why it has to create a data lake container for over here. So for now, I'll create a new container, which I'll call it the input folder. So in the real world, um, what we normally do is we actually no, let me see. Let me call it landing actually. Landing zone, maybe landing zone. Let me just call it landing. So landing is a container that will have our incoming data set. So incoming data set, you have your input folder and you have your archive. So in the real world, normally in the real world, you have a couple of containers. So you have your landing zone, your curation zone container. So this is where, so if you are familiar with the Databricks, uh, processing Delta Lake architecture, you have your bronze, silver, and gold. So your landing maybe is your bronze, is the silver, and then you have your refined refined zone. So many people call it different things, so it doesn't really matter. But in this case, I'll be using the landing zone strictly, and I think in a subsequent video, I'll try to do everything I did in the Synapse in a Databricks. That way, I can leverage the creation zone and refine. But for now, I'm just focusing on landing zone. And in the inputs, I will upload the file. So, uh, see where's the files. Let me go back to my, did I download? Let me download the CSV files. So if I were to download these, how can I download it? So I download by saying download, right? Let me download. Interesting. I'm not even download the file, right? To be able to download, right? Let's go. Edit this file, open in the context file. What is this? Yeah. So right now it's weird. I can't even remember. I don't see a download button right now. But if he wants me to download the entire zip file, fine. We can do it like this. So download the entire zip file, and since it's a zip file, we have to. So I got it downloaded and I got it downloaded as you can see right here. And now I'll try to upload it to my storage. Let's see, downloads. It says zip file. Oh, so I need to unzip it first. Okay. Okay. I open it. Upload it. Here you go. So one way or the other, you need to download the file and process it. But I think what I need to do right now is I only need to actually download the full load first, then I would upload the incremental load because in the real world scenario, on day one, when you're working on a new project, you're gonna first get the full load. Let's say you have to ingest data from the employee table in the Oracle database. First step is you have to download the uh, you know the full load. First of all, you won't have an incremental load. So in the full load, I only have a full load. So the next step is so that's in my input. So so the approach is this. I first download I first process this full load. After processing it, I push it into archive. Then tomorrow I will get some incremental files inside here, process it, and push it to archive. So let's create our. So the goal now is to create a data factory. And let me see. Did I show? So let me show you the architecture, right? I think that's something that before you start doing any work, first you need to understand what we are trying to achieve here, right? So go to PowerPoint. Let me show what we are trying to achieve over here. What we are trying to achieve here is like this. So we're gonna have our, this is our source table in source file in IDLS, right? Is inside the input folder, right? So over here, uh, right, let's see. This is the okay. Maybe I just need to, you know, wish I could just draw it. I don't want to waste your time or make this video long. But the whole point is this, right? You have this input folder, you have this source file, and what we're gonna do is basically extract this using our ADF. So where's the shape? I don't know what's a good shape for data factory. Some kind of yeah, I don't really care. Let's say this data factory, right? No, that's not good. Uh, sorry guys, I'm a little bit, you know, not really. Yeah, so let's say this data factory. I will draw a line that basically extract this data, and once we extract it, we push it into the Azure Synapse. So Azure Synapse, so let's say Azure Synapse is like a database, typical cone or cylinder, right? So there are two things here. There's a table going on here. Let's see. So we'll have a table, right? Where's the table? Yeah, table thingy right here. I need to change the field to, let's say, black, maybe. Uh, Probably not black, but let's see, something like. So this is my staging. So I just think that's the key point is stage table. So we're gonna have a stage table, and we're gonna have a target table. So the whole point is this table is so just note. So state table is a kill field. So what does that mean? Uh, should truncate and load. So it doesn't freeze this data permanently. So what we have is whenever we get the source data, we push it to state table, we truncate whatever is there, push it to here, and then we that's step one, right? That's step one. Step number two is to step number two is to use a merge statement to offset into the target using the data from the stage table, right? So this is exactly what we're trying to do here is um, I don't know if I could, I know, but this might synapse. Let me make sure people can see that synapse tool. So that's the plan, right? It's a very simple thing. We use a main statement upside into this, and that's it. So tomorrow when the incremental data comes, we again push it into the state table. We do our offset. ADF, so this is a proper ELT technique. So where the data factory is just an extract and load, over here is where the transformation happens. So that's whenever you hear ELT, this is very simple. This was exactly what it is. So yeah, if I say over here you're extracting, uh, then you are, you know, loading over here. You're loading, and over here you are transforming. So that's the whole ELT technique. And then there's, one final step where after a successful completion, the last step, make sure you move this source file into the archive folder. So that is something that will happen somewhere. Archive. All right, so I'm gonna save this and probably put it in the GitHub later. Let's see, that's it. ELT design. All right. So that's a simple overview of the concept or the logic behind what we are trying to do. Now, we so now we're good. We should be able to start with the data factory. So let's start with the fun stuff. So data factory, we open it up, open new data factory. Here we go. So as we open it up, it's still telling us to configure Git repository, but we're gonna ignore that for now. We just create a new pipeline. So new pipeline, you create a new pipeline. You can call it whatever you want to call it. For me, I will call it something like, sound. I don't know. Let's see. Invest data. Obviously, every company will have a naming convention. You probably need to follow them. And in this case, it's a very simple copy activity. We're just trying to, again, ELT technique. We're trying to copy the data from the source into the target. So now the source. So we have to now create a source data set. The source data set is a data lake storage thing two because we did the hierarchical namespace. We have a CSV file and we don't gonna bother. We have to create a link service. So create link service, leave it default, integration runtime, you know, let's leave it default, default. Let's see, first connection. If that works, that works. Again, all these things in the real world might change for you. You might have to use a service. Most likely you have to use a managed identity, but we're not gonna go into that right now. We we are keeping it very simple here by here. In the real world, you probably follow the best practice based on your your company's architect or lead. So file system. So obviously over here we can just go with the landing zone. Try to do this way. Inputs to pick this one. So there you go. So that's pretty much it, right? And we see okay. So let's see. One thing I like to do, I go right away, preview it, make sure I can see the data. Obviously, something we didn't do right, the column names didn't come out, so we have to change it. Make sure that the column name first row as header row, check so that the column name is getting it gets picked up. So we go back here, we do preview. Now you got it. So the first row is the header that has the column name. So that's good. So now what we do is we go to the sync. We have to create a new one. So by the way, before I create a new one, let's check if our like Synapse provisioned correctly. Synapse. So it is provision. However, we need a SQL pool. Should we use the serverless SQL pool? Uh, Not 100% sure about this one. I haven't used the serverless SQL pool actually. Um, will it work for us? Mm, Not sure, but let's see what we can do actually. I'm also learning, guys. So normally I use you know the dedicated SQL pool, but let's see if that will work. See, yeah, nothing is coming out, so it's not gonna work. So it's not gonna work. So we need to create one. So this is so high, and you just need the cheapest right here. You know, do we need backup? None. Just keep it very simple. Then something's wrong with the basic. So we need a name. So the name can be CDC SQL pool. Doesn't matter. All right, let's create it. I don't know if this would take time, but it might take some time. Uh, but we can keep an eye on it. But for now, let's keep seeing what we can do. All right, as it's coming up. So for now, it's gonna tell us to discard changes till the deployment is done. All right, you can discard changes, okay? But there's one thing that we need to at least try to do right now. So whenever you don't have the CD GitHub integrated into your ADF, it's gonna force you to publish your changes because Um, the Having a GitHub allows you to commit and save your development without publishing. So publishing, the difference between saving your code versus publishing it is that in publish mode, when you publish it, you actually, it's almost like you're deploying the code into the internal uh, data factory repository, or the engine can now have your code and it's compiled and everything. So whenever you have a trigger set up, you can leverage, it's gonna trigger the code that is saved in the publish mode or in the live mode, you call it. So this is a live mode. But when you have a GitHub in place or Azure DevOps in place, the code is saved at the repository level, and it's not really, you still have to eventually publish it if you want to publish. So it's not going to allow me to publish because everything is not set up properly. So let's check. It's still in progress, still chugging along. So as it's chugging along, I'm gonna revisit this concept. I think it's very important that you understand the general process of ETL is as old as older than I am actually. This process of ETL, you extract, you load, and you transform. And we can also get our merge statement ready. So you could say merge statement upside sample. I can say SQL. In SQL, so this is the syntax. Let's copy it. Let's have it handy, you know, so that we can utilize it when it's needed. Another thing you can do is you could have, before you hit the copy activity, you could check if there's a file exists. So that's one thing. If you want to enhance this pipeline and get the uh, really production level code, some days you might not have an incremental file, but your pipeline is scheduled to run right every day. So if there's no incremental file and you go into the source looking for a file, it might fail, right? So what you need to do is, why not save cost and time by having a logic where you check, does the file exist? So to check if a file exists, there's an activity for that. Um, so first of all, you always want to use this. You can use this to get metadata, right? And so get metadata is actually used to get the metadata for from a a source. So in this case, I can use it to get the metadata for my data lake. So let me see. Can use it for data. So all these things, these are all different activities you can use. Oh man, it's still deploying. All right, I'm not gonna waste your time here. I'm gonna wait for this